a video on kind of a risotto. So I made a chicken pilaf dish at the weekend, but it wasn't chicken, it was pheasant, and it wasn't rice that I put in it. It was quinoa, that stuff. It was nice, and I put in some spices and some preserved lemon, and I used some chicken stock, which I'd made from some cooked chicken bones, which were just kind of left over, and it was really nice. And I kind of thought, well, let's try and recreate that, but in a risotto form with no kind of chicken. So there's about 300 grams worth of onion. I've just sweated it down in a little bit of chicken fat, because I had it from the chicken stock. Yeah, so if we're using, you can use olive oil if you want, you could use lard, you could use anything you've kind of got to hand, but I've got chicken fat, it's just going to add a little bit more flavour. So 2/3 of a teaspoon of coriander seeds, half a teaspoon of cumin, and half a teaspoon of turmeric, and then we'll just give that a little bit of a move around and a cook, just to kind of start releasing the flavours type of thing. The onion's already soft, so I didn't, my videos are too long as it is, so I'm just a little bit, so if we can cut down the time by frying off the oven beforehand, that'll be fine. And then I've got half a preserved lemon. I think half a preserved lemon will be about enough. So I've made my own preserved lemons for this video, if no one's watched it. So it's about like a whole lemon. I did whole lemons. Shall I get the jar? I'll get the jar out. I did whole lemons. So I'm using half a lemon. I used a whole lemon in the other recipe, but like the regular size lemons that I preserved. Sometimes the lemons that you get are small lemons, but those are regular size lemons. If you imagine, I have got a lemon in the fridge. They're like regular size lemons, as where some of them are more the size of like a golf ball or a ping pong ball. And I think they probably use those because they can't use them for anything else. I've left the fridge open now. So just half a preserved lemon, I think that'll be enough. As always, we can add a little bit more, very difficult to take it away. And then I'm using cheap rice. I'm not using proper risotto rice or pudding rice. I'm using cheap white rice. I'm not going to wash it, we're going to leave the gluten on. So then there is 400 grams of cheap white rice. Should have put the preserved lemon in first, not to worry. Not to worry. Give the rice a bit of a coat so the oil gets covered in it from the onions. I suppose I could have toasted the rice off beforehand and that would give it another layer of flavour. But we've got plenty of flavour in the chicken stock and everything else, so that'll be fine. And then preserved lemon in. I don't know how old, they must be over a year old now, these preserved lemons. But I was very impressed with them. Really easy to make. And one of those things, it was a case of I was on the local market and it was the end of the day and the guy was selling off all his fruit and veg that he hadn't sold, selling it off cheaper, and there was a lot of old lemons that were a bit rough. So it's just a simple case I thought, well, we can turn those into preserved lemons. So they served me well, even though I ended up giving up most of them away. Right, that out of the way. And then adding, I'll turn the heat up a little bit, and then the stock's on the back, the stock's melted. It's a bit sedimenty, it's not like completely clear. There's a little bit of sediment in it and there's a little bit of fat on the top of the stock, but I'm fine with that because it's going to add flavour to the risotto. And then it's just a simple case of, as always, when we make a risotto, 3 ladles to start off with, give it a move around, and then as that liquid evaporates off and absorbs into the rice, then we add some more stock. Do it gently, take your time, there's no rush. So that, I'm going to do another one, but I have got another job I need to do with that stock. But anyway, so a little bit more. And just let that gently cook. The liquid will evaporate off and it will absorb into the rice. I'm not going to add any seasoning just yet. I'm not going to put any cheese in either, because I might put some milk in, but I don't think I'm going to put any cheese in. I quite like the idea of making dishes cheaper, and putting some cheese in is going to make it much more expensive. So we'll just do it this way, and hopefully the creaminess of the starch that comes out of the rice, because it will be very starchy rice, and we'll maybe put a little bit of milk in, maybe, and the fat will make it creamy enough. Because I did a savoury rice pudding dish, which was like a risotto out of cheese. I don't think yeah, it'll be up by the time this video kind of comes out. So it was kind of quite interesting, you know. But I'm waffling. It was part of the limited budget, limited ingredients type of idea that I kind of had, which I'm still playing around with. So that wants a bit more stock. A bit more stock. There's about a litre's worth of stock, so we'll just kind of see how it goes. But it'll take about 20 minutes, half an hour. There's no rush, even though I am rather hungry. But we'll see. You see what I'm doing. As the stock evaporates off, we add a bit more. I'll probably do it a lot tighter than a normal risotto. Risotto tends to be kind of quite loose. I don't want to do that. I think it'd be more tighter. But you'll see when we're done. So evaporate off, soak up, a bit more stock, carry on, repeat process. So all the stock's gone in now, and I tasted it and I decided that it needed just that other half of the preserved lemon. Well, adding adding the other half of the preserved lemon wasn't going to overpower it. That's what I was kind of worried about, that it'd be a little bit overpowering, but that's why I didn't add all of it in one go. So we've added the whole lemon, preserved lemon, so that's nice. It's soaked up about a litre worth of chicken stock. So the only problem with using cheap rice is that the rice breaks up and it cooks unevenly. That's okay. So it's nearly ready. Now, do I put some milk in to give it a bit of creaminess? It's already, because of the starch and because of the chicken stock and because of the chicken fat, it's really kind of quite creamy anyway. It would be creamier if we'd have put some mascarpone cheese in, and if we'd put some grated Italian hard cheese in. But if we're cooking on a budget, it's all right. It's all right, you know. So let's put a little bit of milk in, which will add a little bit of creaminess to it. Just mute the flavours just slightly when you add dairy to things. So if you add butter or cream or milk, it just takes the edge off spices and heat. So what we'll do, that's just about cooked. So we'll wait until that gets to a good consistency, and then that'll be ready. So it would be better made. A bit more milk, just a bit more milk. Then it won't be just as opaque. So also the milk will stop it being as translucent as well. So it'll add like a cloudiness to it. So it'll cloud up the stock with the milk and not make it as translucent. So of course it would be better. See how creamy it looks now. So it would be better made with proper risotto rice or rice pudding rice at a pinch. It would be better made with some hard Italian cheese, some pecorino, or some what we call it? I forget the name. Parmesan, and maybe some mascarpone cheese thrown in as well. It would be better, but if we're cooking on a budget and money's a bit tight, or we haven't got all the ingredients in the house and we can't be bothered leaving the house, we still can produce nice food with a similar type of effect. So yes, I put preserved lemons in it, yes, I put kind of spices, but Oh, and yeah, and I've used fresh chicken stock, but using chicken stock cubes is fine. There's also fat in them as well, which adds to the flavour. So they're basically fat and salt with a little bit of chicken flavour, which is fine if you're going to do something like this. But I just double up the recipe. So if the stock cube is for example, half a litre worth of stock, I would use 2 stock cubes per half litre. So I double up the amount of stock cubes and then cut down on the amount of salt that I added to it later on. Because the stock cubes are kind of quite salty, but the stock cubes will add a richness, and doubling them up will add a more richness to them. So you're kind of getting a bit of flavour, more of a flavour for not much more work. But anyway, that's what I'd always recommend with stock cubes. That I think you probably need to double the recipe for what the manufacturers say. So I'm kind of cooking that. I'll let it go a bit thicker because I want it thick because something else I want to do with it anyway. But that's not a bad consistency for risotto, that. But I want it a bit thicker than that. So I'll carry on cooking, moving it around, which will agitate the rice and get the gluten to kind of come out of it, make it more creamy. And then it'll just thicken it up, which I want it thicker. I don't want it at that consistency, which is a nice kind of consistency. There's that. I just want it a bit thicker than that because I'm going to do something else with it after I've had some for my lunch. We're cooked. That's about the right kind of consistency that I want for the thing I'm going to do with afterwards. So heat off. Move that around that way. Dirty cooker. I was going to do some painting today, but the weather's not good enough. So we're indoors and I'm cooking, so the cooker's dirty. I want the bowl. And I will wash that up. Yes, always. But it's not as loose as a risotto should be. But I was going to have a go at making some arancini with it, so I think that'll be about right. Once it cools and sets, I think that'll be lovely. And we're in winter, so I want something a little bit more substantial for my lunch. That's lovely. I'm not entirely sure you wouldn't know there wasn't any cheese in that. That's lovely. The preserved lemon. Oh, and the chicken stock. That's delicious. That's delicious. Don't need to do that. So, that works. And as I said, be better with the risotto rice. Be better with a bit. I don't think it needs a cheese in it, but it'd be nicer with some cheese in it. A bit of mascarpone, a bit of parmesan. You don't have to use fresh chicken stock. I've used it because I had it. But chicken stock cubes are great. Just add more chicken stock cubes and use less salt. Preserved lemon, and the spices. Delicious. Probably would be nice with some peas in there as well. But use it as a base. So don't put the spices in. Just use the rice, the onion, stock, and the milk as a base to make a cheap risotto alternative. But it's just a little bit more different. That's lovely, is that? I'm going to really enjoy that for my lunch.